Good afternoon. I recently read an article in Psychology Today that indicated that a couple's emotional bond can be weakened by pet peeves. It's important to know what your pet peeves are, particularly if you're going to be in close interaction with other people. So what exactly are pet peeves? They're simply things that are particularly annoying or irritating. I have some of my own, but there's some that stand out. I do not like driving behind people who are constantly braking for no apparent reason. I find that it affects how I drive because I'm not able to tell whether there's a real situation that they're seeing, or they're distracted, or they simply have bad driving habits. I learned recently that some people do it because they're trying to force the person behind them to slow down. It's called brake checking. I was driving to work one morning last year, and I found myself behind this vehicle that kept stopping for no apparent reason. So initially I tried to maintain my distance, but traffic was heavy and I found myself right behind the person. Then suddenly they stopped and I almost rear-ended them. That was a cue for me to exit that lane as quickly as I could and go around them, and I was able to make it safely to work. The lesson I learned there was that I cannot control how other people drive, but I can choose my own reaction to it. So my reaction now is, if I notice somebody is constantly braking, I will get out of the lane, and for my own sanity and my own safety, I will not drive behind such people. Talking about choices, I'm a firm believer that when you go into a space, after using it, you should leave it in the same way you found it, better but never worse. And that's one thing I've also tried to teach my son as well. That is why it infuriates me whenever people use a common space, a communal space, and do not clean up after themselves. I find this to be very selfish and inconsiderate of other people. I don't understand why people do not clean microwaves after they've used them, leave dirty spaces, dirty tables, or not flush the restrooms after themselves. It begs the question how they live at home. So the other day I went for my break a little later than I usually do, and when I got into the break room, there was nobody else, it was just me. So I was looking forward to 30 minutes of peace and quiet. Unfortunately, when I entered the break room, I found the two tables, both of them were really dirty with dried on food and drinks. So instead of spending my time enjoying my lunch, I had to use the first few minutes cleaning up tables, which I thought was very annoying and unfair. In communal spaces, it's difficult to pick out the real culprits behind leaving messes behind, because it is there's a lot of people, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly who is leaving the messes behind. But how I deal with that is that I mirror the behavior I want to see. I clean up after myself, and if I see somebody else leaving a mess, I'll politely ask them to clean their mess up. I think a lot of these choices have to do with values. I grew up in a family that had traditional values, and so it is no wonder that people who use offensive curse words really irritate me. I find that use of vulgar language is a lack of imagination. English has such a wide variety of words that you can use, so to choose just vulgar words, to me, does not make sense. So it reflects poorly on the person and those engaged in that conversation. A friend of mine and I recently went to a poetry lounge. She invited me there to attend the spoken word evening, and it was going to be an open mic. I'd never been there before, but my friend who had been there spoke highly of it. So when we got there, the energy was wonderful. It was palpable. There was a lot of people. But within the first few minutes and the first few poets, I started to question whether it was the right place for me to be. I'd never had in my life such vulgarities spewed out in public, and it was quite embarrassing, to say the least. I tried to block off what I heard, but it became apparent that there was more crude than clean poems. So at some point, my friend and I decided to leave early. We left the show early and made a mental note never to return there. So the lesson there for me was that as much as you cannot control what people say, you can always choose who you surround yourself with and the places that you go to. As I grow older, I'm learning that with my pet peeves, I have to find a way to deal with them. I cannot control other people's behavior. As somebody once said, the only person's behavior that you have control over is your own. Thank you.